How's it going, everybody? James, OnlineCarShow.net. In this video, we're going to be discussing my sim racing setup and going over how I started with sim racing and what you need to begin sim racing. Alright, real quickly before we get too far in the video, just want to kind of go over upcoming videos and what we have on the schedule. There's a car show this weekend by CarMates in Texas. You can check out my Instagram account for more details on that. Should be attending that. It's Sunday 3 to 6. It's going to be a good time, and I'm going to try to get a video of that show. And to come back to upcoming videos that we've got planned, I've got a bunch of stuff on the way for the sim racing, and I've just been having a blast with it. And I'm going to plan to do probably a oil change video on the dry sump on the Corvette ZR1 soon, as well as any car meet and car show footage I have coming up. So be sure to go ahead and hit that like and subscribe below. That helps my videos to grow and it helps support my channel. And I can't say thank you enough for that. So let's dive off into the fun stuff. Sim racing setup. You know, I want this video to be kind of a beginner's guide, showing y'all where I started versus, you know, where I'm at now versus where I'd like to go. A lot of people think to get into sim racing you need this, you know, $20,000 setup to race the car, and I'm going to tell you right now that's not true at all. I started sim racing with simply just a wired controller. I bought this from Razer. It's the Razer Wolverine. It's a really nice controller, has magnetic buttons that come out and you can change it out with different sizes. But it's been a great little controller, and for gaming, most of these, you know, most of y'all probably have one for first-person shooters, or you can go pick one up at, you know, Best Buy for, I don't know, 20-30 bucks probably for a cheap controller. And you can also utilize via wire the controller from a PlayStation or Xbox. So it's really easy to dive off into sim racing. You don't need a whole lot, just a controller and a PC with a video card that can support the game you're trying to play. You should be good to go. It's not a whole lot to it. I will say there's a little secret to the controllers most people don't know. It's in how you configure them in iRacing. If you open up iRacing and you go to your settings tab, under controls, you're going to see a slider that's a second one down. You want to set that one all the way to the minimum, which I believe is like 60 or something like that. It's probably going to be set at either 180 or 270 depending on the controller by default, and you want to set that as low as possible. That way it's not going to make it really jittery and stuff when you're, you know, steering the car. It's going to smooth it out. That's kind of the little secret to using controllers and how you can get a little more precision out of them. That kind of covers where I started sim racing. I was playing iRacing with just the controller for, you know, a good month or two there and having no issues. Where I came into really needing the controller and stuff, honestly, wasn't really the driving as much as it was the overtime. You know, if you're driving the car, you're making really slow movements with the thumb, you know, with your thumb over the joystick, and over the course of, you know, a 50-lap race or something like that, it just really kind of wears down your thumb, making these little movements and holding them real precise. So that's where the advantage of an actual steering wheel and the pedals and all that is going to come into play. Now, as far as a basic steer, so let's say you've got the controller, you're liking the game, you're ready to dive a little deeper into sim racing, what kind of controller or what kind of steering wheel you should go with. I personally went with the Thrustmaster T300. It's a great steering wheel. I've had gear driven steering wheels in the past. Long time ago, I think it was a Logitech, and I just was not a fan of how loud it was, how notchy feeling it was, just not very smooth. The T300 from Thrustmaster is a belt-driven steering wheel, which makes it really smooth driving. You don't get a lot of notchy, and it's real quiet. And also the 4-speed the force feedback on this is actually pretty strong. It feels really lifelike, and I've actually had to set it down in a lot of games. The settings down just because of how much force it can have. You know, recentering the wheel or whatnot. So I'm a real big fan of this wheel, and the other advantage of the Thrustmaster stuff is that there's so much aftermarket stuff for it compared to the Logitech. Now I've heard Logitech's been adding steering wheels and so forth like that to make the G29s and stuff more comparable with the Thrustmaster as far as the aftermarket line goes, but it's just not there. There's so many variations of steering wheels you can get for the Thrustmaster. It accepts, you know, there's different, the pedals and all that you can pretty much do separately with the way the sim racing setups work, so you don't have to go with the Thrustmaster. Or I opted to upgrade to a Thrustmaster gear shifter here. The TH8A is what this is, and it's an okay gear shifter. Honestly, I kind of wish I would have done the e-brake first before the gear shifter, but you know, we'll get there eventually. So we've got the T300 here. I've got the 3 pedals set up below. That way I was ready for the clutch when I added the gear shifter you're seeing right here. So the Thrustmaster T300 is going to come with a 3 pedal setup where you have the option for it if you do the T300 RSGT, I think, package. You're going to get the 3rd pedal, which when you add the optional gear shifter, I think this is 179 later on, you'll have the 3rd pedal ready. The pedals on this have been great. There's a little thing they add in the back of the brake. Oh, it's kind of stuck in there, but a little pad that helps it make it feel a little more lifelike. And I know these are still potentiometers and so forth like that, but the added little pad they added on the back of the brake really helped me a lot in making it at least feel a little more lifelike. No complaints there. Later on, that will be a spot. Honestly, the one thing you can do in sim racing, if you were to improve anything on a steering wheel setup, is your pedals. Most of your veteran, you know, sim racers are going to tell you that, because pedal control means everything between making a difference between you and another car on the track. Being able to feather your pedals a little bit better will get you better times. Where I'm planning to go from here, I would say I'd like to add a wider wheel to this. I mentioned the e-brake. I'd like to add the TSS Sparco wheel to this. It can be used as a sequential shifter and as a e-brake, and honestly, it's got really good ratings. I know people with Fanatec setups and Semicube setups that use the Thrustmaster TSS e-brake just because of how good it is. It's a really good e-brake, so that will be added eventually. The biggest thing I think I need right now, even though I've got this racing seat or gaming seat you're seeing right here, and this setup here, I feel, even though everybody's egging me to get pedals, I feel the biggest thing that would make a difference, honestly, with my setup is getting a frame and an actual racing seat. Because when I'm racing, what will happen sometimes is if I'm jerking turns and stuff like that, you can see my seats moving with me, right? So that's kind of throwing me off. And not only that, when I'm getting set up for a race or during the race, I feel like I'm constantly doing this number, you know, moving the seat, trying to get it centered to where I absolutely like it. And I just never feel like it's in that spot I like. And consistency going between race and race, I feel like my body and, you know, my racing position is changing because I'm not able to get any consistency out of it. So I feel that the racing frame, honestly, with how my setup is set up in here, how my setup is set up, I feel the racing frame with how everything is set up in here will make the greatest impact just in giving me a little more consistency racing. So that's where I'm going from here. I'm either looking at a track racer setup or a next level racing. Track racer I did reach out to them, and they may be willing to work with our channel a little bit here. So kind of leaning into track racer, but we'll see what happens. I really like both setups, so I'm not gonna say one product's better than the other. They both are a little different, and both have great products, and there's a lot of great reviews about them. But so that'll be my next setup. I'll probably do the frame. From there, it'll either be, I'd like to go with the wider wheel. This wheel to me just feels a little toy-like just because it's so small. Now, I would guess for Indy and Formula and some of the open wheel stuff, this might actually be the better wheel to use. Having the shorter distance and stuff, being able to control it. But for things like rally and oval track, things where I need a little more precision and control of the wheel, I feel like a wider wheel would really help me. They make a 13-inch wheel, the Ferrari 599X. It's a replica of a steering wheel and of the Ferrari 599, and I think it'll fit what I need. It's an Alcantara with 13-inch wheels, so it should widen things up a little bit, and the Alcantara will be nice feeling on my hands. So we'll probably do the steering wheel next, and I'll probably do the e-brake around that same time period. And that should really finish up the setup nicely. From there, I guess the pedals would be the next step, but that's pretty much where I've been, where I am now, and where I'm going. As far as my monitor setup, the monitor behind y'all is a 35-inch widescreen or ultra wide screen, and it kind of fulfills the bill, sim racing, but it's not quite wide enough to see the car next to me fully. But I do get a little glimpse of his bumper and stuff that most people with just a normal monitor might not see. But I guess the best monitor setup would be either a 49-inch ultra wide or going with the triple monitor setup. But I'm not ready to do that quite yet. So all in due time, maybe. I don't know if I'd like to go a triple someday or go with the 49. Either way, you're probably going to get a little more of that car beside you, which makes it a little safer racing. Just know if you're going in with, a 35-inch ultra wide or less, if you have a regular monitor, just be a little more careful about cars next to you and listen to your spotters a little better. There are some better spotter programs, so you don't have to use a spotter in iRacing if that's the game you're playing. There's a program called Crew Chief that I use, and you can program it, even talk to it. It'll do voice recognition. You can ask it for laps, etc. So it's a really good add-on, especially if you're going with a narrow monitor. You want to make sure your Crew Chief is giving you constant feedback about cars next to you, so you don't have to worry as much. But just be a little bit more careful when you go in 3 wide or something like that in a game, and you don't have the ability to see that car next to you. But that's kind of covered a lot here, but there's a lot to cover and get y'all caught up with on, what I've learned and things I've added to my setup. So I hope that gives you a little idea, and anybody out there, jumping into sim racing, I recommend you do it in little steps, kind of like I have, before you dive off the deep end. A lot of people get into sim racing, and then, a couple months later, it gets old to them or whatnot. I know I love cars, I love racing, so I'm slowly been taking that dive in the deep end, but as you can see, you can do it a piece at a time, and it is not be too bad on your wallet. But that's all I got for y'all this week. Be tuned. I'm going to try to get y'all footage. I can't promise anything, but I'm going to try to get y'all footage from the car show this Sunday. I'm also going to be doing live streams with iRacing and so forth, and I'll try to get my GoPro set up for the live stream video on the next one, so y'all be able to see me in the video and not just hear me. But that's all I got for this week. Be sure you hit that like and subscribe below. I can't say thank you enough for that, and I hope everybody has a great week.